In this video we're going to look at Goldwork lettering, but if you want to have a go at the kite project it belongs to first, then you can see that video by clicking on the notification in the top right corner. I've used the prick and pounce method to transfer my letters onto the fabric. If you want to see how to do this, I'll put a link to the prick and pounce video in the description below, along with a link to the free download of the lettering if you want to have a go at this yourself. So this method leaves me with little dots, and I'm joining up these dots with a permanent black pen so I can clearly see my lettering. I'm using a Gilt twist number 1 thread and a Krynic Japan number 1 to couch it down with. So I'm going to start with my Japan thread number 1, and I'm going to just put a knot in the end of it here. This will be my waist knot that will get cut off later, and I'm going to start my thread on the top of the fabric. So put my knot out of the way of where I'm working, 2 little small stitches on the line, straight up and straight back down again, just to start that thread off. That will secure the thread end when I cut the knot off. And then I'm going to come up right near to the end of that L, top of the L shape. Not the very end, because that's where the gold will come down. So I'm bringing in the gilt twist now. So this is a number 1, so it's quite a fine twist. And you can see I've left a tail end there. That's probably about 1 inch and a bit, maybe about 3 centimetres. And we'll finish that off later. So I'm just leaving a little tail end. And I'm bringing my Japan thread up on the line, over the top of the gilt twist and down the other side, couching over it, so stitching over it. And I'm going to put my stitches quite close together. These letters are quite small, so I want to get some nice shapes on these curves, so put my stitches close together so I can get really accurate turns when I turn my thread round. Now you'll notice I'm not handling the gold too much. I just want to gently persuade it round, so I'm using the thread to help me coax it round that bend there. I kind of twisted one against the other. We'll do that again later, so you'll see that again. I don't really want to handle it too much. Don't want to pull on it because that will distort my letters. So just get it in the direction I want it to go in, kind of leaving it to sit on the top, and then I'm stitching over it. And it's those stitches that will hold it down. Now I've worked this lettering so that I can continue in one movement with this thread. I don't have to start and stop the thread, so I'm going to go straight over the top of this loop that I've just made and down to the bottom of the letter. Now I'm not too happy with how that's crossed over there, so what I'm going to do is just park my needle there and bring in this. So this is a Mellor, M-E-L-L-O-R, and this is just a laying tool, but it's specific to Goldwork. So I'm going to use this small pointed end just to move that gold around a bit until it's sitting where I want it to sit. It's better that the metal touches the gold rather than my fingers, because the oils in your fingers will affect the thread, so it's best to use a metal tool if you can. So I'm just continuing around the shape, just up on the line, over the gilt twist and back down the other side. You can bring your thread up first and then place your twist in position. Just gently coax it round so it's going in the right direction, but I'm not pulling on it. This will distort it, so just lie it in the direction it wants to go. Over the top of that previous row of stitching, and just continue along the word. Just cut my waist knot off there, so that's out of the way. Okay, so I've just continued all the way along the letters exactly the same way, and I just want to show you how I'm going to finish this off, because there's a couple of ways of doing this. So we've got one little very tight turn on this S, so using that thread just to coax it round. Nice sharp turn. It will do quite sharp turns, this thread. Now, as I said, there's a couple of ways of finishing off. If you want to use one length of thread for all of it, you've got to measure how much you need, which is quite difficult. So I'm going to sort of use one length per word. So I've actually cut my thread off and I've threaded it in a very large needle. It's just fine enough to do it. Anything thicker than this twist number 1 is going to be a bit difficult to get through. And you can see I have to sort of pull it a little bit to get that through to the back. And I'm just going to put my little apostrophe in, just pulling it there, coaxing it through, just to stitch a little stitch with it there. So I'm just sewing with it like a normal thread now. So there's the apostrophe, and then I'll just cross my T as well while I'm here. It just takes a little bit pulling to get it to come through, but I'm not pulling on it here though. I'm just letting it lie nicely to make a nice shape, and then I'm bringing my Japan thread back in and putting a few stitches in to hold that twist in place. A couple of stitches over this part as well, just so it doesn't move. Now I'm going to leave this twist on the back now, just putting it out of the way so I don't catch it on the back. I'm going to start a new thread for the next word, but I'm going to continue with my Japan thread. There's plenty left in the needle to do that, so I brought that up where I want to start, and this is a new piece of twist that I'm putting in. You can see the little end there that I'm leaving to finish off later. So ideally you want as few starts and finishes as possible, but the end of a word is a good place to finish, as you'll see later when I show you how to finish the threads on the back. Now I want to come all the way around here, and that little tail's getting in the way, so I'm just going to pin it out of the way. I can continue round with the thread, making that nice tight curve. So I've just jumped to the end of the word go, just to show you how I'm going to finish this off. So this one last little bend to get round. Another nice tight curve, so stitches nice and close together. Use that thread just to pull against, just to turn the twist round into the right direction. You can put your stitches closer together if you've got a very small area to work on, that will help. And then just that last little stitch there, I'm actually going to cut this one off on the top. I'm just finishing off my Japan thread here because it's got a bit fine, a bit short. So let's finish that off and we'll start a new one, and then I'm going to cut this twist off and start a new twist as well. So 2 new threads for the next word. So the threads that I've left on the top, because I'm going to finish them off later, I've just pinned them out of the way for now. It's much easier to do all the stitching first, then to take the threads through to the back and finish them off on the back. So I'm just holding them out of the way with a pin, because I'm about to start the next letter with a new piece. So those are my two little starting stitches. Here's my new piece of twist, and don't forget that little end to take through to the back. So now there's another one hanging around on the top as well, so it's good just to keep a little bit of order about it to help you. So just jump to the end of the word fly, finishing off the Y, carrying on with my Japan thread, and I've just threaded the twist into the large needle again. Just pull it just to get it to go through to the back. Now, because the next word is just one letter, I'm going to carry on with the same twist thread. If you start and stop in such a small space, there's a lot of finishing on the back which can be a bit tricky. So I'm going to use the same thread here, and I've just come up where I want to start. So there's no starting and finishing for this part on the back, just carried on from the previous word. And there's the end of my A. Now I've left the end of the A on the back as well, just hold that out of the way on the back. And I'm starting a new thread for the last word. You can carry the thread on, but you do need to make sure that you're going to have enough thread to do the whole word. So as before, I'm just threading it just to finish off the little detail. So I'm crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So there's the I. Leave that thread on the back to finish off, and then just the last few stitches with my Japan thread just to hold that last piece in place. So I'm going to take these ends through to the back now. So I'm going to use this here. So this is a very strong sewing thread. I threaded both ends the same way through the eye of the needle, so it makes this loop coming out of the other end. Take the needle through where I want the gold to go through to the back. So it's just got that loop on the top there. I'll do this a few times so you can see it clearly. And then you just want to catch the very end of the gold in the loop. It can be a little bit fiddly. There we go. Now underneath, just give it a gentle tug, and you can see me just encouraging it through, not yanking it through, just encourage it through to the back so you don't do any damage. So we'll do that again. Take the needle through, both ends go through, just leaves that loop on the top. Catch the end of the gold in the loop. Just wiggle it through, tease it through to the back. And then I'll do the same with these as well. Right, this is the back, so these are the ends that I've just pulled through. Now if I leave them like that, they're going to come undone and probably fall out on the front, so we need to finish these off properly. So I've just zoomed in here so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got a double sewing thread. This is just a normal sew all thread, and I've doubled it just to make it a little bit stronger, and I've started with a knot. I'm just starting that thread off there with a couple of stitches. Pin that out of the way. Just a couple of starting stitches so that doesn't come undone, and I'm going to lay the gold thread back in the direction it came from on the front, so you're sort of doubling it over on the back. Don't go off into the space where there are no stitches, because I'm going to use these stitches now to sew the gold too. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that backing fabric and some of the stitches and sew round and round the gold. So I'm sewing the gold to the fabric and the stitches. So make sure it's really secure, because you don't want this coming undone because it will fall out on the front. So do take the time to do this bit properly. You don't need to do much of it, just a centimetre is fine. just to hold it securely in place so it's not going to come undone. So just over and over a few times, picking up a bit of the backing fabric. And then to finish, I'm just going to pass the needle through the loop just to sort of knot it around the gold. Now cut the excess gold off, get rid of that bit, because it will catch on things and it will start to pull. So make it nice and tidy and just cut the excess gold away. Now you need to make a judgment now about whether you start a new thread or you can use the same one. So I'm going to pass this one underneath the stitches up to where I'm going to do the next piece of gold, because it's not too far away, and that saves me starting and finishing it. Now this piece of gold here that I've just gone underneath is actually one of my little stitches where I put it in a needle and I've moved along to the next word. So while I'm there, I'm just going to put a little stitch over the top of it. I don't really need to do this, but it's just going to make it a little bit more secure. Tied everything down really nice and tightly, and I don't need to worry about it. So just a little extra stitch there while I'm passing. So now I'm going to repeat that method for the next piece, and I'm going to pull that gold, folding it back on itself. This is much stronger if you do that, picking a bit of that backing fabric up and sewing over it. So I've done all of my ends, so they're nice and neat and tidy, they're really secure, they're not coming undone, it's nice and flat, and this is what it looks like on the front. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and you're inspired to have a go yourself. If you do like it, give us a thumbs up, and that means more people will be able to see it. And if you subscribe to the channel and click the little bell, you'll get notifications of when we upload something new. Thanks for watching, everyone.